When we discuss evolution and mating strategies and reproduction and how it shapes human nature and female nature and male nature, I sometimes see the response along the following. I don't want kids. Therefore, all the stuff you say about mating strategies and sexual preferences and human nature and whatnot, those things don't apply to me. Now, essentially what they're saying is that they're immune to the laws of biology. And this is really a complete misunderstanding of the basics of biology, the basics of evolution. I don't want kids. I've never wanted to have kids. And yet here I am, a heterosexual male, and I'm attracted to women who have hourglass figures, hip to waist ratio of 0.7, right? Smooth, clear skin, nice firm breasts, clear, bright eyes, symmetric facial features, so on and so forth, right? Neotenous facial features, long, healthy hair. These are all signs of fertility. And yet I have never wanted to have kids. That's not the way evolution works. So I'll give you an example which I think really illustrates how evolution, aka natural selection, works. Polar bears. Polar bears didn't always used to be polar bears. Polar bears used to be brown bears from the forests. So these brown bears, they wandered away from the forest, went north towards the icy, snowy, northern locations. Okay, and they were brown. And what happened was they found these seals that were hanging out near the North Pole, near the North regions, right? And what happened was they would walk up to the seals and just eat them. And the seals wouldn't run away because the seals had never encountered bears before. Now, most of the seals got eaten, but some of the seals naturally were more skittish, and that they naturally had a propensity to run away when the polar bears approached. So all the seals that were not afraid of polar bears, they all got eaten before they could reproduce. And all the seals that were skittish and fearful and ran away, they survived and reproduced. So over time, fewer and fewer seals were unafraid of polar bears because they failed to pass on that trait, being unafraid of polar bears, to future generations. And the seals that were afraid, they repopulated the seal population. So now pretty much all seals are afraid of polar bears. So seals in effect evolved due to a change in their environment, the introduction of polar bears. Now the polar bears also evolved in turn. Because what happened was some bears were naturally whiter than the other ones. So the brown bears would have a hard time sneaking up on the seals. But some of the bears were naturally whiter, so they blended into the snow. So they naturally were able to sneak up on the seals better. So you see, this is a good example of how species interact with each other and push each other to evolve. Now, this is not how evolution works, okay? What did not happen was the seals looked at each other and said, hey, my friend over there, my brother over there, got eaten by a polar bear. Hey, I better do something about it. I better run away when the polar bear approaches. That's not how evolution works. Okay? At no point did the bears say, hey, I'm in a white environment with a lot of white snow. I better make my fur white so I can blend in. No, that's not how it works. Some bears were naturally had whiter fur due to genetic variation, due to mutations, due to whatever kind of variations. And those polar bears survived and reproduced. And the brown polar bears were less likely to survive and reproduce. So today, all of polar bears are white. Okay? Does that make sense? So, in our evolutionary past, there were women who were not hypergamous. They had more trouble mating and passing on their DNA. The women who were hypergamous had a greater chance of passing on their DNA. So over time, one strategy outcompeted the other strategy. Right? There were men who were attracted to infertile women. But those men weren't able to pass on that trait to future generations. At no point did the man say, "Oh, okay, my goal is to reproduce and pass on my DNA to future generations. So therefore, I should pick a mate who has such and such qualities to maximum." No, that's not what happens. That's not at all how instincts and evolution works. Okay, it's an instinct. It's an urge that you inherit from your ancestors. So it may be true that you don't want kids, but your parents certainly reproduced. Your grandparents reproduced. You come from a long, unbroken line of people, all of whom successfully followed some kind of mating strategy. And you inherited it. You're not a blank slate. You didn't come out of nowhere. You came from your parents. And you inherited the traits from your parents. I hope this illustration helps you understand. This is how evolution works. Evolution is not some kind of fringe theory, or maybe it's true, maybe it's not. No. Evolution is the pillar of biology. In much the same way that Newtonian mechanics and quantum mechanics and relativity are the three pillars of physics. You can't really do any physics. You can't understand anything in physics without reference to at least one of those three pillars. So you can't really understand biology without understanding evolution. I mean, you can, but you can't understand why. You can look at a certain species and you can say, "Oh, this species has sharp teeth. This species has a warm fur coat," and so on and so forth. But you don't know why. To understand why, you have to look at what is the environment this species evolved under. What are the drivers that molded and shaped this species? So I hope this video helps understand the basics of biology. I'm not a biologist, but I've read dozens of books on evolution and biology. And so when I came across MGTOW talking about human nature and biology, it's just very easy for me to understand. And we don't teach this in school. We teach that we inherit our hair color from our parents. No one will dispute that. We inherit our skin color, right? No one will dispute that. But our behaviors, our brains, our instincts, we're supposed to be immune from the laws of biology? I don't think so. That's a fantasy. That's the equivalent of, believing in Santa Claus. Alright guys, I think I've rambled enough. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.